Some people seem to have everything figured out by their mid-20s. They set clear goals, work multiple jobs to achieve their dreams, and maintain the kind of positive attitude that inspires everyone around them. Jessica Callagher was exactly this type of person. In 2009, this 27-year-old Texas State University graduate was methodically building toward her dream of becoming a full-time elementary school teacher. She worked 2 jobs, saved money for graduate school, and maintained close relationships with family and friends who described her as reliable, honest, and genuinely caring. Jessica's story represents the kind of senseless tragedy that reminds us how quickly life can change. Her case would eventually lead to breakthrough medical research and highlight the importance of never giving up on seeking justice for victims. Please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share with others who appreciate respectful true crime coverage. Let's learn more about the woman whose bright future was about to be destroyed. 27-year-old Jessica Callagher had everything mapped out for her future. Living in Austin, Texas, this Texas State University graduate was methodically building toward her dreams of becoming a full-time elementary school teacher. She worked dual jobs to support herself, one at a local grocery store and another as a temporary teacher, while carefully saving money for her master's degree and paying off college loans. Jessica shared an apartment with her roommate John, who was not only her cousin Melanie's brother, but also a police officer. The close-knit trio formed an unbreakable bond, with Melanie serving as Jessica's best friend and confidant. Their relationship exemplified loyalty and trust, qualities that defined Jessica's approach to all her relationships. Despite the pressures of working multiple jobs and financial responsibilities, Jessica maintained an optimistic outlook on life. A friend once shared Jessica's personal philosophy. Someday, everything will make sense. Keep telling yourself everything happens for a reason. Laugh at the chaos and smile through the tears. This positive attitude carried her through daily challenges and kept her focused on her goals. Jessica's responsible nature extended to caring for her beloved dogs, whom she treated like family members. She never missed work, rarely called in sick, and approached every commitment with dedication and reliability. Her friends and family could always count on her to follow through on her promises. As September 2009 approached, Jessica felt confident about her direction in life. Her teaching career was gaining momentum, her finances were stabilizing, and she had strong relationships supporting her journey. Every decision she made reflected careful planning and consideration for her future. However, despite her bright prospects and methodical approach to life, Jessica's carefully planned future was about to encounter an unimaginable tragedy. September 7, 2009, began as a perfect Labor Day celebration for Jessica Callagher. The holiday offered a welcome break from her busy schedule, and Jessica planned to spend quality time with her cousin Melanie and their close friends. The group gathered for a traditional barbecue and swimming party, seeking relief from the intense Texas heat that dominated the early September day. Jessica's responsible nature showed even during relaxation. While others indulged freely in holiday festivities, she carefully monitored her alcohol consumption. She had multiple reasons for staying relatively sober. She needed to drive everyone home safely, had work the next morning, and was consistently mindful of her tight budget. These practical considerations never dampened her enjoyment of spending time with people she loved. As evening approached, the group decided to extend their celebration by going to a local diner for food, then continuing to a bar where they played pool and enjoyed each other's company. The atmosphere remained relaxed and joyful, with Jessica actively participating in conversations and games throughout the night. Just after midnight, the group decided to call it a night. Jessica, true to her word, safely drove everyone home. Her final stop was dropping off Melanie at 1:30 a.m. During their goodbye, Melanie offered for Jessica to stay the night at her house, a suggestion that would later haunt both families. Jessica politely declined, explaining she needed to prepare for her work shift the next day and wanted to check on her dogs at home. The cousins shared a warm hug before Jessica drove away, marking their final normal interaction. As Jessica headed toward her apartment, she made what seemed like a routine decision to stop at the nearby 24-hour Walmart to purchase dog food for her pets. This simple errand would lead her directly into the path of a predator who was about to destroy everything she had worked toward. At 2:30 a.m., Jessica's white Kia pulled into the Walmart parking lot, captured clearly by surveillance cameras. She appeared completely normal, focused solely on her simple mission to buy dog food for her pets. Wearing a red baseball cap and white dress, Jessica carried her bag over her shoulder as she walked purposefully toward the store entrance. Inside the 24-hour Walmart, Jessica moved with the efficiency of someone who knew exactly what she needed. Surveillance footage tracked her movements as she went directly to the pet supplies section. selected her dog food, and proceeded to the cash register. Nothing in her behavior suggested she was there to meet anyone or that she felt unsafe or uncomfortable in any way. Unknown to Jessica, her mundane shopping trip had attracted the attention of a dangerous predator. A tall man in a brown shirt and baseball cap had arrived at Walmart in a small red pickup truck just minutes before Jessica's arrival. He parked his vehicle far from Jessica's car, a detail that would later prove significant to investigators. The man's movements inside the store were calculated and deliberate. Surveillance cameras captured him going to the bathroom, but his primary focus appeared to be monitoring Jessica's activities. As Jessica completed her purchase and prepared to leave the store, the man positioned himself strategically to follow her outside. The timing was no coincidence. As Jessica headed toward the exit with her heavy bag of dog food, the predator maintained a calculated distance behind her. Surveillance footage shows him staying approximately 20 seconds behind Jessica as she walked through the parking lot toward her car. Jessica reached her white Kia, which was unfortunately parked behind a large tree that obscured the view of security cameras. This positioning would prove crucial, as investigators would later struggle to see exactly what happened next. As Jessica approached her vehicle in the early morning darkness, her stalker closed the distance between them, preparing to transform a routine errand into a nightmare that would end her life. The surveillance cameras captured the moments leading to Jessica's abduction, but the large tree obscuring her parking spot prevented investigators from seeing the actual attack. What they could determine from the available footage painted a terrifying picture of calculated violence and control. The man in the brown shirt approached Jessica's car on foot, leaving his red pickup truck in its original parking space. This detail confirmed he had walked directly to Jessica's vehicle, rather than returning to his own, indicating premeditation and planning in his approach. Within approximately 2 minutes of the man reaching Jessica's car, surveillance cameras recorded her white Kia pulling out of the parking space and driving toward the exit. This brief time frame suggested the violent encounter happened quickly, with the attacker successfully forcing his way into Jessica's vehicle and compelling her to drive under his control. As Jessica's car left the Walmart parking lot, she was no longer the driver by choice. The attacker had gained complete control over both Jessica and her vehicle, taking them to an unknown location where he would subject her to horrific violence. Evidence would later reveal that Jessica was raped and strangled twice during this ordeal. The first strangulation appeared to involve the tie from her white dress, while the second was accomplished using the attacker's hands. Physical evidence showed Jessica fought desperately for her life, with scratches found on her neck from her own fingernails as she clawed at the ligature, trying to free herself from the deadly grip. After completing his brutal assault, the attacker drove Jessica's car back to the shopping center area, parking it outside a Little Caesars restaurant. He then abandoned Jessica, believing she was dead, and returned to collect his red pickup truck from the Walmart parking lot. However, Jessica's ordeal was far from over, as surveillance would later reveal her car remaining stationary, while something unimaginable continued happening inside. The morning after Labor Day brought growing concern when Jessica failed to appear for work. Her workplace called to report her absence, immediately alarming Melanie because Jessica never missed work without calling. This deviation from Jessica's reliable character triggered immediate worry among those who knew her best. John returned from his police shift at 5:30 a.m., initially assuming Jessica was sleeping, and they simply hadn't encountered each other. However, his concern grew when he realized Jessica hadn't been home at all. Her distressed dog provided additional evidence that something was seriously wrong, as the animal had been left alone much longer than Jessica would normally allow. John immediately contacted his police colleagues to track Jessica's phone location. The device pinged near the Cedar Park intersection of U.S. Highway 183 and Walton Way, a busy commercial area filled with restaurants, shops, and businesses. This location, with its heavy traffic and multiple establishments, seemed an unlikely place for Jessica to disappear. Melanie and her boyfriend Sergio rushed to the location, frantically searching the crowded shopping complex. They immediately spotted Jessica's distinctive white Kia parked outside Little Caesars restaurant. As they approached the vehicle, a terrible smell became apparent despite the rolled-up windows and 90-degree heat. The discovery inside the car was devastating. Jessica was slouched in the driver's seat, positioned much farther back than she would normally sit. She was completely motionless, with what appeared to be feces throughout the car. Her skin had burned red from prolonged sun exposure. Her hair was matted with sweat, and marks were visible across her body. Sergio immediately called 911, his voice capturing the confusion and horror of finding Jessica in this condition. The scene revealed the full extent of Jessica's injuries. clear evidence of strangulation with ligature marks across her neck, small cuts on her face and neck, bruises and scratches covering her body, and signs of sexual assault. The discovery confirmed everyone's worst fears. Jessica had been murdered. However, the circumstances surrounding her death presented investigators with a complex mystery. How had Jessica ended up in this location, and who was responsible for the violence that had ended her young life? Investigators immediately began canvassing the busy commercial area where Jessica's body was discovered, requesting surveillance footage from every nearby business. The shopping center's location, surrounded by restaurants and shops, provided multiple potential sources of security camera evidence. A breakthrough came from witnesses at the shopping center who reported seeing Jessica alive hours after her body was eventually found. However, their accounts described disturbing and inexplicable behavior that deepened the mystery surrounding her death. Multiple witnesses reported seeing Jessica naked, crawling around inside her car as if attempting to put on her bathing suit. Later, they observed her sitting outside the vehicle wearing her white dress, playing with her hair in repetitive motions. Finally, witnesses saw her making strange hand movements and talking to herself, appearing completely disconnected from her surroundings. These witness accounts described Jessica as appearing confused and extremely tired, exhibiting unpredictable behavior that seemed completely out of character. Notably, no witness reported speaking with Jessica or attempting to help her, assuming she was either intoxicated or experiencing some form of mental health crisis. This testimony created a puzzling timeline where Jessica was clearly alive for several hours after the initial attack, but in a severely altered mental state that prevented her from seeking help or calling for assistance. Investigators returned to the Walmart surveillance footage, which provided crucial evidence about her attacker's movements. Cameras captured the perpetrator using Jessica's bank card at an Exxon gas station just 20 minutes after abandoning her car at Little Caesars. While Jessica's car remained stationary from 2:50 a.m. until its discovery, surveillance showed the same man from Walmart walking back across the street to retrieve his red pickup truck. He drove away at 5:30 a.m., apparently believing his victim was dead. Police released still images from the surveillance footage to the public, specifically asking for information about the red pickup truck. The investigation now depended on someone recognizing the vehicle and calling in a tip that could identify the killer. The crucial breakthrough in Jessica's case came from an unexpected source. Leslie, a local woman, contacted police after recognizing the red pickup truck from the surveillance footage. The vehicle belonged to Kristen Harmel, a 37-year-old man who was close friends with her fiancé. Leslie's decision to call police wasn't made lightly, given her personal connection to Harmel. "I felt like Kristen was family, so it was hard to make that call. A young girl died at the same time," she later explained. Her suspicions were initially raised by Harmel's unusual behavior on the night Jessica was murdered. Harmel was supposed to bring money to Leslie and her fiancé's apartment a few hours before Jessica's body was discovered, but he never showed up. This deviation from their plans struck Leslie as strange, and she couldn't shake her uncomfortable feeling about the timing. Police immediately investigated Leslie's tip by researching Harmel's background. They discovered he had been pulled over 3 weeks prior for driving with an expired license. Police body camera footage from that traffic stop confirmed he was driving the same red pickup truck and wearing the same baseball cap seen in the Walmart surveillance footage. With this evidence, investigators were certain they had identified their suspect. The visual match between the traffic stop footage and the Walmart surveillance was undeniable, providing them with a clear connection between Harmel and Jessica's murder. 5 days after Jessica's body was discovered, police arrived at Harmel's residence to question him about his whereabouts during the early morning hours of September 8th. Notably, Harmel had already altered his truck's appearance, painting parts that were previously shiny black, suggesting consciousness of guilt and an attempt to distance himself from the evidence. Investigators prepared to confront Harmel with the overwhelming surveillance evidence, knowing they had strong visual proof linking him directly to Jessica's final moments. When police arrived at Kristen Harmel's residence, he didn't appear shocked by their visit. Surprisingly, he readily admitted to knowing Jessica Callagher, immediately launching into an elaborate story to explain his connection to her. Harmel claimed he had met Jessica through a website called lonelyhousewifehookups.com, and that they had been communicating through Messenger. According to his version of events, they arranged to meet at Walmart between 12:30 a.m. and 1 a.m. on the night she died. His story continued with claims that he and Jessica left Walmart together in her car to have consensual sex near a park. After their encounter, he alleged, Jessica drove him back to the Walmart parking lot. During their conversation, Harmel claimed he mentioned having trouble paying his gas bills, which prompted the generous Jessica to give him her bank card and write the PIN number on his hand. Harmel explained that when he learned of Jessica's death the next day, he panicked. "I was just with this girl, and now she's dead. It's not supposed to happen," he told investigators. He claimed his fear of being connected to her death motivated him to alter his truck's appearance and discard her bank card. However, investigators immediately recognized fundamental flaws in Harmel's elaborate deception. The surveillance footage clearly contradicted his story, showing that Harmel and Jessica never acknowledged each other before he entered her car. Jessica's behavior in the store indicated she wasn't there to meet anyone, she simply wanted to buy dog food quickly and go home. Jessica's friends and family confirmed she never mentioned meeting anyone that night. They emphasized that Jessica was extremely honest and would have told someone where she was going if she planned to meet a stranger late at night, especially given her cautious nature. A thorough examination of both Jessica's and Harmel's computers and phones revealed no communication between them whatsoever. Jessica had never visited the website Harmel claimed brought them together, and there were no messages or calls between them. Most damning, investigators discovered that Harmel had been searching for Jessica's name online and viewing pictures and information about her just hours after her body was found, revealing his awareness of her identity and death. The witness accounts of Jessica being alive for hours after Harmel left the scene initially puzzled investigators. How could she have survived the brutal attack, yet still be his victim? The answer came from cutting-edge forensic research at Indiana University School of Medicine. Investigators learned about a phenomenon called delayed death from strangulation, where victims can survive for hours after being strangled before ultimately dying from the effects of the attack. This medical reality explained the confusing timeline in Jessica's case. Dr. Bill Smoke, a forensic medicine expert, explained the devastating process that occurs during strangulation. You fall asleep first because your brain isn't getting enough oxygenated blood. After that, you might have a seizure. After at least 15 seconds, your brain cells start to die. The brain damage progresses systematically during strangulation. Victims first lose control of their bladder, then bowel control, while the brain stem controlling heartbeat and breathing dies last. Critically, higher brain functions controlling personality and memory are affected first, explaining Jessica's bizarre behavior that witnesses observed. Jessica had been strangled twice during her attack, once with what appeared to be the tie from her dress and once by Harmel's hands. These two attacks caused severe brain damage that left her unable to understand her situation or location. She couldn't call for help, couldn't use her phone, and had no awareness of the danger she was in. The brain damage combined with heat stroke from being trapped in the hot car under scorching Texas sun created a completely fatal combination. Jessica's condition deteriorated throughout the morning hours as her damaged brain struggled to maintain basic life functions. This medical evidence explained the disturbing witness accounts of Jessica crawling around naked in her car, playing with her hair, talking to herself, and making strange hand movements. Her brain was dying from the strangulation damage, causing unpredictable and confused behavior. Harmel likely believed Jessica was dead after strangling her twice, unaware that she was merely unconscious. This discovery allowed investigators to understand how Jessica could have been seen alive for hours while still being Harmel's victim, providing prosecutors with the evidence they needed to pursue capital murder charges. In May 2013, nearly 4 years after Jessica's murder, Kreisen Harmel was finally charged with capital murder. The delay reflected the complex nature of the case and the need to build an airtight prosecution based on the delayed strangulation evidence. Harmel pleaded not guilty, setting the stage for a legal battle that would test the prosecution's case. The trial featured expert testimony from Dr. Bill Smoke, who explained to the jury how Jessica died from strangulation, despite being seen alive hours later. Dr. Smoke testified that Jessica's abnormal behavior resulted from two factors: brain damage caused by strangulation and the effects of extreme heat exposure. The defense attempted to undermine the case by pointing out the lack of DNA evidence linking Harmel to Jessica. Defense attorneys argued that if someone was strangled, they would likely scratch their attacker and collect DNA under their fingernails. However, prosecutors successfully countered this argument by explaining that extreme heat and humidity can break down DNA much more quickly than normal conditions. The prosecution felt confident in their case, emphasizing that surveillance footage provided irrefutable evidence that no one else could have committed this crime. They also called Harmel's ex-girlfriend Elizabeth, who testified that he had lied to her about his apartment burning down and losing his phone in a fire, when in reality his phone had been seized as part of the investigation. Despite the strong evidence, the trial ended in a devastating mistrial when prosecutors were accused of withholding evidence. District Attorney Jana Duty was sent to jail for violating a gag order and was later disciplined by the State Bar of Texas for prosecutorial misconduct. In a bizarre twist that added another layer of tragedy to the case, Duty was later found dead with a gunshot wound to the head. The mistrial meant everyone was back to square one, requiring a completely new trial to seek justice for Jessica. Chryson Harmel's second trial began in spring 2018, almost 10 years after Jessica Caliker's murder. The new prosecution team presented the same compelling evidence, including surveillance footage and expert testimony about delayed strangulation death. A crucial element was the jury watching Harmel's interrogation videos, where investigators explained their concerns about his inconsistent story. Sergeant Bond testified about specific evidence that directly contradicted Harmel's claims about what happened that night. Physical evidence proved particularly damaging to Harmel's defense. Jessica's driver's seat was found pushed all the way back, making it impossible for her feet to reach the gas and brake pedals. This contradicted Harmel's story that Jessica drove them back to the shopping center after their alleged encounter. Additionally, Harmel claimed Jessica started her car as he walked back to his truck. But surveillance video never showed the car's lights turning on, or the vehicle leaving its position during that time frame. Perhaps most significantly, Jessica's car keys were never found, making it impossible for her to have driven anywhere after the attack. This missing evidence supported the prosecution's theory that Harmel maintained control of the vehicle throughout the encounter. Sergeant Bond explained the significance of Harmel altering his truck's appearance and discarding Jessica's bank card, stating that people typically want to disassociate with that particular item when they change or get rid of something connected to criminal activity. The defense attempted to argue that neither Harmel nor Jessica appeared to be looking for each other inside Walmart because they planned to meet at her car. However, prosecutors successfully demonstrated that surveillance footage showed no indication either person was expecting to meet someone. This time, the jury wasn't swayed by defense arguments. They found Chryson Harmel guilty of capital murder, including kidnapping, rape, and strangulation. Since the government chose not to seek the death penalty, the judge sentenced Harmel to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Harmel attempted to appeal his conviction in 2020, but the conviction was upheld. The conviction of Chryson Harmel brought legal closure to Jessica Caliker's case, but it could never restore what was taken from her family and friends. Jessica's carefully planned future, her master's degree, her teaching career, her dreams of making a difference in children's lives would never be realized. John, Jessica's roommate and Melanie's brother, expressed the hollow nature of the conviction. While finding and locking up the perpetrator provided some measure of closure, he noted that it didn't change anything. She doesn't get to live, but he does. Jessica's father provided heartbreaking testimony about all the milestones that were stolen from their family. He took away my chance to walk her down the aisle. I know she would have made a great mother. I really miss her, he said, capturing the depth of their permanent loss. Melanie faced particularly complicated grief, as she was the one who discovered Jessica's body in that parking lot. She explained that losing someone is difficult every day, but the good memories are often overshadowed by the traumatic final image of her cousin. It will never feel like a whole day again. Something will always be missing, Melanie reflected, describing the permanent void left by Jessica's absence. The trauma of discovery added another layer of suffering to her grief process. While Chryson Harmel will spend the rest of his life in prison, no sentence can truly account for the vibrant life that was cut short, or heal the wounds left in the hearts of those who loved Jessica. Her story serves as a reminder of how a single act of violence can destroy not just one life, but ripple through an entire community forever.